Grace and peace. This is Pastor Renee Teague, the pastor of Enon United Methodist Church in Studley, Virginia. And today this is going to be part one of a two-part series. It's a little request item on faithful Christian and the political arena. How are we to deal with political realities? So we're going to start with the Romans 13 text. Romans 13, and it says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves." Well, that's tough for us today, isn't it? You know, we think of our right to rant and object, and we think about rights or the lack of right to protest. And we're currently going through this season of protesters in the streets of cities. And, you know, in Portland, Oregon, we have protesters that are now saying that our federal agencies have stepped in over the objection of mayors and local authorities, and protesters that are moving barricades and refusing to leave when they're told to. And is it right? Is it not right? We have a presidential figure that some adamantly love and support everything that he does, and then we have those who adamantly oppose everything that he does, people who basically present Donald Trump as a god on earth, a perfect human being, and people who present him as Satan incarnate and all evil on earth. And of course, both of those extremes, I would propose to you, are wrong. This text talks to us about submitting ourselves to authority. I think it's really important that we look back at what comes right before this text, because in the end of Romans 12, we read, "If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Any one of these things, if you took it completely to an extreme, you would have problematic behaviors. You would have things that don't fit with God's design for us. So it is my theological understanding of this that what we're really looking for is balance. As Christian people in 2020, particularly in the United States of America, it is expected that we would have political opinions, that we would have a desire for or against a particular elected official, that we would have ideas about what should and what shouldn't be done. It is also true that our government over time has been wrong. It has been wrong, and it was the right and good Christian thing to object to that wrong behavior. After all, we did lock up Chinese and Japanese Americans during particular periods of time. We massacred Native Americans during particular periods of time, and we bought and enslaved African Americans, and we were definitely wrong. It honestly, it wasn't against the law to beat your wife until the mid-70s. So there are certainly times when our government and these officials and the laws that they represent, when they are wrong, and it is the right and good Christian thing to object to them. Now we come to a question of how we object and how we behave. When we find ourselves allowing that rancor to disrupt the peace in our souls, we need to stop and take a look in the mirror. We need to stop and spend more time in prayer. We are to speak words of correction, but we are to speak them with the love of God. Remember, God loves all, and that includes the people we disagree with. So it's a more a how and a balance thing. If we're not careful, our righteous indignation becomes a time when we have let evil overcome us. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So in this moment in time when you find yourself all upset and frothy at the mouth over statues and names and over who's right and who's wrong and who has rights and who doesn't, and over names for teams and names for things, when you find yourself all worked up about those things, whichever side you land on, it is important as a Christian, as a Christian to not let evil overcome your good intentions, to find space and time to breathe, to think before we speak, to not allow the differences that exist to divide relationships, and to remember that indeed, though I would come a little bit short of saying that God put each and every ruler in place, because we know that there are genocidal maniacs ruling countries, and I don't believe that God put genocidal tyrants in place and intended for them to rule and to lead. But we can trust God's faithfulness and presence with us, and preservation of the world in a longer term, and also God's calling on our lives and how we are to interact with and intersect with and change the things about us that are unjust. When I was at Union Seminary, the Korean students had a male chorus that sang, and this is one of the songs that they sang so beautifully, and every time I hear it, I can hear them singing in Watts Chapel. Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Part 2 tomorrow. Same song, same channel. See you then.